Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Black children stand behind a fence watching a whites-only playground in Alabama, 1956. This is the time of segregation in mid-century America, where access to public spaces was divided by race. Spanish poet Federico García Lorca stands before his executioners in 1936, reportedly reciting his final verses. A celebrated writer of the 20th century, Lorca was executed at the start of the Spanish Civil War for his political views and identity. 3 of the 12 dogs aboard the RMS Titanic survived the 1912 disaster. They were small breeds, 2 Pomeranians and 1 Pekingese, kept in first-class cabins by their owners. Most of the ship's dogs perished in the sinking, making these few survivors a little-known part of one of history's greatest tragedies. A researcher stands near an active lava skylight on the slopes of Kilauea Volcano, Hawaii. The hardened lava around the opening appears to be sculpted into human-like forms, while the molten rock below glows a bright red. A pile of horse hooves with iron shoes lies frozen in the snow near Stalingrad, 1943. These remains belong to the horses of Germany's 6th Army, slaughtered and eaten by starving soldiers during the brutal winter siege. A mother holds her baby inside a special anti-gas crib in England, 1942. During World War II, gas masks were designed even for infants, offering full-body protection against chemical attacks. The device allowed babies to breathe filtered air. A sea of people fills the rally grounds at Nuremberg, 1937. Thousands gathered under Nazi banners to hear Adolf Hitler speak. These rallies were carefully staged displays of power and unity, filmed by Leni Riefenstahl for propaganda that helped strengthen the regime's image across Germany. Female students kneel in the streets of Tokyo as Emperor Hirohito's voice is broadcast for the first time, announcing Japan's surrender on August 15, 1945. Many listened in disbelief and grief as the emperor acknowledged defeat. A Victorian woman with extraordinarily long hair, late 19th century. During this time, long hair symbolized purity, discipline, and social grace. Women often grew their hair to extreme lengths, sometimes reaching the floor. Workers in heavy suits and masks move across the shattered roof of reactor number 4 after the Chernobyl explosion in 1986. Known as liquidators, they worked just seconds at a time under deadly radiation, clearing debris by hand to stop further contamination. Brigitte Bardot, captured in the 1950s, became one of the most recognized faces of her era. A French actress and model, she rose to global fame with her role in And God Created Woman, 1956. A look into the 1960s hairstyles in America. The bouffant, beehive, and flip styles became symbols of confidence during the decade. Achieving these looks often required teasing, hairspray, and patience. Anna Nicole Smith and J. Howard Marshall II on their wedding day, 1994. The 26-year-old model married the 89-year-old oil billionaire, sparking intense public attention. Their relationship, marked by a 63-year age gap. A young boy and girl in the Congo, photographed in 1908, show the brutal punishment for failing to meet rubber collection quotas under Belgian rule. Their hands were cut off, a common act of terror used by colonial officers. A Chinese farmer holding his child, Yangkai Valley, 1944. Captured by Bert A. Krawczyk, the photo reflects rural life during wartime China. The man's straw hat and handmade sandals show his humble background. The 8 members of the Titanic's orchestra in 1912, led by Wallace Hartley, continued to play as the ship sank into the Atlantic. Their music was meant to calm the terrified passengers. None of them survived. Discovered along the Baltic coast of northern Poland, this 2,800-year-old Bronze Age dagger was found after a storm exposed it from a cliff. Decorated with crescent moons and stars, it's believed to have been both ceremonial and practical. possibly linked to a solar cult or owned by a noble warrior. A man peers into a coin-operated machine to watch short erotic films in the United States, 1942. Before adult theaters or magazines became common, these machines offered risque cartoons and clips in secret corners of amusement halls. An ancient wooden gate of a temple in Purulia, West Bengal. The structure, weathered by time and nature, stands as a silent trace of Bengal's early temple architecture. Chicago, 1941, 3 women dressed in elegant coats and hats gather on Easter Sunday. As war loomed in Europe, such scenes captured a brief moment of peace and grace in America. In 1930, scientists arranged for musicians to perform inside a barn, playing flutes and trumpets for a row of dairy cows. The experiment tested whether music could affect milk yield. The results suggested that calm, rhythmic tunes helped the cows to produce slightly higher production. In 1923, jockey Frank Hayes made racing history at Belmont Park, New York. During the race, he suffered a heart attack but stayed in the saddle as his horse, Sweet Kiss, crossed the finish line first. Hayes became the only jockey to win a race posthumously. One of the earliest known photographs of a tornado, taken near Oklahoma City in 1898. Capturing such a powerful storm on camera was extremely rare at the time, as photography was still new. The image became a historic record of nature's force. Louis Armstrong, London, 1956. Captured backstage at the Empress Hall, the jazz legend sits with his trumpet and program in hand. Fresh from a European tour, Armstrong had become a global symbol of jazz, known for songs like What a Wonderful World. A man carries the body of a child wrapped in a blanket, while women grieve nearby. Rwanda, 1994. The photo was the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide, when hundreds of thousands were killed in a span of just 100 days. A long line of people waits in the rain with their dogs outside a Berlin building in 1926. Many of them came to surrender their pets because they could no longer afford the newly increased dog tax. Rue Royale, Paris, late 1800s, a view of one of the city's grandest streets, linking Place de la Concorde to Place de l'Opéra. Once the route of King Louis XVI's final journey in 1793, it later became a center of art, politics, and Parisian life. Jewish women stand together moments before execution by Nazi forces in occupied Latvia, December 1941. Their clothes had been stripped away, and behind them lie the belongings of others already executed. Barbara Stanwyck on Christmas in Connecticut. One of Hollywood's most versatile actresses, she played a food writer pretending to be the perfect homemaker during the post-war era. 6 Native American men sit proudly in a Pope Toledo automobile, 1905, dressed in full traditional regalia. This image was captured by Edwin Levick, a woman of Ouessant, early 1900s. Known as Ouessantines, the women of this French island wore distinct regional attire, large bonnets, and woolen garments. Living on the Island of Winds. A woman lifts her bra high during a public protest in San Francisco, 1969. The act became one of the most recognizable moments of the women's liberation movement. A young Agatha Christie, born in 1890, is shown here long before she became the world's best-selling mystery writer. Gifted from childhood, she learned to read by age 4 and later turned her love for storytelling into timeless works like Murder on the Orient Express and The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. In 1963, before GPS or digital maps, people could call a navigation helpline for travel directions. Operators sat at desks lined with phones and large mapboards, tracing routes by hand and guiding callers step by step. This image shows one of those early human GPS offices, an abandoned watermill in eastern Bavaria, Germany. Its iron wheel and decaying walls stand silent among the fog, reminders of when mills like this powered local grain production in the 19th century. Many such mills once dotted rural Bavaria. A group of people stands on the massive Fieldbrook stump in California during the 1890s, Once part of a giant redwood tree estimated to be over 3,200 years old, it measured more than 30 feet in diameter. The stump became a local landmark. In northern Thailand, scientists discovered a petrified tree trunk measuring 72.2 meters long, estimated to be around 800,000 years old. Researchers believe the original tree once stood over 100 meters tall, making it one of the tallest known fossilized trees. A U.S. soldier kneels to embrace her young daughter after returning from 7 months of service in Iraq. Her uniform still bears the dust of deployment as she clings tightly to the child she left behind. Chief Rushing Bear, known in Arikara as Kunuk's Tunawinks, was a respected 19th century Arikara leader. Often called Son of the Star by his people, he served under Chief Whiteshield before becoming head chief. His leadership reflected the Arikara's strength and enduring traditions during a time of great change for native nations. Children attend a grammar lesson outdoors in Sudan, 1954. With a simple blackboard propped against a tree, the class takes place on bare ground, where students write in the sand. After the September 11th attacks, President George W. Bush visited the Islamic Center of Washington, D.C. to denounce the rise in anti-Muslim hate crimes. Standing beside Muslim community leaders, he reminded Americans that Islam is a faith of peace and urged unity. Professional mourners in Mani, Greece, captured in deep sorrow during a funeral ritual. These women, known as moirologists, were hired to weep and chant laments for the dead, an ancient Greek custom. Their cries and gestures were believed to guide the soul to the afterlife. Since 2011, actor Gary Sinise, known for playing Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, has raised over $300 million through his Gary Sinise Foundation to help veterans, first responders, and their families. The foundation has provided more than 950,000 meals and organized over 500 benefit concerts worldwide. This is 13-year-old Omaira Sanchez, trapped in debris after the Nevado del Ruiz volcano eruption in Colombia, 1985. For 3 days, she remained stuck in mud and wreckage while rescuers tried to save her. Her calm strength and haunting look captured worldwide attention. In 1943, Charlie Chaplin, aged 54, married 18-year-old Una O'Neill, daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill. Despite a 36-year age gap, their bond lasted over 3 decades. They had 8 children, and Una stayed by his side until his death in 1977. 2 miners pose proudly at the entrance of the Blue Eyes Mine in Placer County, California, 1882. During the gold rush era, men like these worked long hours in dangerous tunnels, chasing fortunes buried deep in the earth. In 1903, Fanny Cochran Smith, an Aboriginal Tasmanian woman, recorded her voice singing into a phonograph. These recordings became the only surviving audio of the Tasmanian language, preserving a vital part of her people's culture for future generations. Ham the chimpanzee, photographed in 1961 after safely returning from his spaceflight, was the first hominid launched into space by the United States. His mission tested life support systems for future human astronauts. A group of riders enjoys a wooden roller coaster in Edinburgh, Scotland, around 1900. Early roller coasters like this were built entirely from timber and operated without electric motors. The thrill came purely from gravity and momentum. In 1954, Anne Elizabeth Fowler Hodges became the first confirmed person to be hit by a meteorite. The rock crashed through her roof in Alabama, bounced off a radio, and struck her side as she slept. The impact left her bruised but alive. George DeBoard looks at his old diseased heart preserved in a jar after receiving a transplant in 1968. At the time, heart transplants were a new and risky medical frontier. His survival was a major step forward in cardiac surgery. Workers stand high above Paris on scaffolding during the building of the Eiffel Tower in 1888. Constructed with over 18,000 iron pieces, the tower was assembled by hand and completed in just over 2 years. A tense moment at the U.S.-Mexico border in 1939 shows American border guards trying to pull back a man already halfway into Mexico. The image shows the desperation and uncertainty of those crossing into another land in search of safety or freedom or the law. During World War II, a young U.S. officer missed his assigned bomber after stepping away briefly. That plane was later shot down, killing everyone on board. The officer who survived after boarding another aircraft that also came under attack was Lyndon B. Johnson, who would go on to become President of the United States. This photograph shows the final public appearance of Chinese leader Mao Zedong in 1976. Weakened by illness and nearing the end of his life, Mao appears frail as he meets a visiting foreign official. Just months later, he would pass away. On May 20, 1910, 9 European kings gathered in London for the funeral of King Edward VII. It was the only time so many monarchs appeared together in one photograph. During the Spanish Civil War in Barcelona, fighters took cover behind fallen horses used as barricades. This was a moment of intense street fighting in the late 1930s, when ordinary objects and even animals became shields. For a crowd scene in Star Wars, effects artist Michael Lynch created a striking illusion using 450,000 cotton swabs moved by hidden fans to mimic people in motion. This miniature model was built long before digital effects took over. In 1988, Aloha Airlines Flight 243 suffered a mid-air disaster when part of its roof tore off at 24,000 feet, exposing passengers to the open sky. Despite the chaos, the pilot landed the damaged plane safely in just 13 minutes, saving 94 lives. In 1989, nearly 2 million people from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania joined hands to form a 600-kilometer human chain known as the Baltic Way. The peaceful demonstration symbolized unity and resistance, demanding freedom from Soviet rule. In 1946, a father fainted after seeing his newborn triplets for the first time. With ultrasound technology not yet available, multiple births often came as complete surprises. The nurses, smiling and calm, held the 3 babies while the astonished father leaned back, overwhelmed by the unexpected sight before him. In 1991, thousands of Albanians stormed the cargo ship Flora in Durrës, desperate to flee economic collapse after the fall of communism. The overcrowded ship carried over 20,000 people to Italy. In 1868, the British Royal Navy seized Arab slave ships off the coast of Zanzibar during its campaign against the East African slave trade. Zanzibar was a major hub where enslaved Africans were shipped to Arabia and Persia, despite Britain's abolition efforts. A young Barack Obama enjoys a day at the beach with his grandfather, Stanley Dunham, in 1965. Dunham, who helped raise Obama in Hawaii, played a key role in his early life. A Japanese man remained silent toward his wife for 20 years after an argument, though they lived together and raised 3 children. His silence ended only after their children wrote to a TV program, leading to their reunion on a park bench where he finally spoke. Men wait in line at Al Capone's free soup kitchen in Chicago, 1931. At the height of the Great Depression, the gangster opened it to serve meals to thousands of unemployed people each day, offering coffee, donuts, and soup during one of America's hardest economic times. In this 1940s photograph, Margaret Gibb is seen receiving a kiss from her fiancé while her conjoined twin sister, Mary, quietly looks on. Born in Canada and joined at the lower spine, the Gibb twins shared a life of struggle. Jacqueline Kennedy, still wearing her blood-stained pink suit, stands beside Lyndon B. Johnson as he takes the oath of office aboard Air Force One on November 22, 1963. The ceremony took place just hours after President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Ulysses S. Grant, captured in 1860 before becoming the 18th U.S. president, stands with a posture brace behind him. Early photographers used these metal supports to keep subjects still during long exposure sessions, as even the smallest movement could blur the image. In 1975, Soviet clown and animal trainer Yuri Kuklachev is seen playing chess with one of his trained cats. Known for his Moscow Cat Theater, Kuklachev became famous for teaching cats complex tricks. Many thought it was impossible, as cats are notoriously independent. Mary Kelly, from 1851 to 1964, witnessed more than a century of American history. She lived long enough to remember the assassinations of every U.S. president up to her death: Lincoln in 1865, Garfield in 1881, McKinley in 1901, and Kennedy in 1963. In 1910, Katharina Detzel, a patient in a psychiatric hospital, made a life-sized man out of straw and cloth to keep in her bed. She did this out of loneliness and desire for companionship, offering an insight into the human need for connection even in isolation. In 1943, 80-year-old Helen Longstreet, widow of Confederate General James Longstreet, worked at the Bell Aircraft Plant in Atlanta during World War II. Once a writer and activist, she joined the wartime workforce to support the nation's defense effort. The Twin Towers rise above Manhattan in 1979, their mirrored surfaces reflecting the pale New York sky. Completed only a few years earlier, the towers were over 110 stories high. Two boys grew up on the rough streets of New York, born just a year apart. One was Italian, the other Irish-Italian. They watched gangsters roam their neighborhood, but chose a different path. The Italian boy became a director named Martin Scorsese, the other Robert De Niro. In 1929, women posed in wooden bathing suits, an unusual but creative experiment in early swimwear design. These suits were made with light wooden panels to help float in water. Before becoming Australia's Prime Minister, Bob Hawke broke a world record by drinking 2.5 pints of beer in just 11 seconds while studying at Oxford. Decades later, he became one of the nation's most popular leaders, reaching a record 75% approval rating in 1984. At the Hollywood Canteen in 1944, a young soldier struggles to stand as actress Linda Darnell playfully asks him to dance. The canteen was a place where movie stars volunteered to entertain servicemen, offering them moments of joy. Rebel fighters in the Cuban Revolution, 1959. Among them stands Fidel Castro, who led the guerrilla movement that overthrew Fulgencio Batista's government. The revolution began in the Sierra Maestra Mountains. In 1939, British stockbroker Nicholas Winton organized the rescue of 669 children from Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. He arranged their safe transport to Britain through what became known as the Czech Kinder Transport. Fidel Castro walks through Central Park, New York in 1955. Dressed in a sharp suit, he was then a young political activist seeking support for his movement against Cuban leader Fulgencio Batista. In the early 1900s, teachers made students wear cone-shaped paper hats to stop them from getting distracted in class. These anti-distraction visors were meant to keep their focus on schoolwork. Spectators tumble as a section of the grandstand collapses during the Indianapolis 500 race, USA, 1960. The accident injured dozens of people and exposed the safety risks of overcrowded race venues. During the Korean War, General Matthew Ridgway challenged racial segregation in the U.S. Army, calling it inefficient and un-American. He disbanded all black units and merged them with white soldiers, creating one of the first integrated military forces in 1952. Soviet soldiers oversee prisoners being transported in cage-like trucks, Irkutsk Region, USSR, 1989. These inmates, likely from a labor camp, were moved under heavy guard during the final years of the Soviet Union. In 1854, 54 homeless children from New York boarded the first orphan train heading west to new families in Michigan, Chicago, and Iowa. Organized by Charles Loring Brace, this movement aimed to give street children a fresh start. Over 200,000 children followed in the decades after. Soldiers formed the shape of a horse's head during a cavalry parade in 1917, United States. The tribute honored the millions of horses that died during World War I, a war where animals played a vital role in transport and battle. In 1968, 11-year-old Mary Bell shocked Britain after being found guilty of killing 2 young boys in Newcastle. Her case drew worldwide attention as one of the youngest murderers in history. A young woman gathers pieces of coal that have fallen from a truck in Dublin, Ireland, 1972. During this time, fuel shortages and economic hardship made coal a valuable resource, and many families relied on collecting scraps from the streets to heat their homes. In 1921, Jack Dempsey faced Georges Carpentier before 90,000 spectators in Jersey City, the largest U.S. sports crowd at the time. Promoted by Tex Rickard, it became the first boxing match to make over $1 million. Shigecho Izumi of Japan, known for having one of the longest working lives in history, labored on a sugar beet plantation for 98 years before retiring at age 105. Born in the 1860s, he lived through the Meiji period and Japan's rapid modernization. In 1956, IBM delivered a 5-megabyte hard drive that weighed more than a ton and required a forklift and cargo plane for transport. It was part of the IBM 305 Ramax system, the first to use a hard disk drive. A 16-year-old German anti-aircraft soldier captured during World War II in 1945. By this stage of the war, Germany's army was so depleted that boys from the Hitler Youth and elderly men of the Volkssturm were sent to the front lines. A U.S. Embassy staff member strikes a South Vietnamese man attempting to climb aboard the final evacuation helicopter from Saigon in 1975. The chaotic scene marked the end of the Vietnam War as desperate civilians tried to flee before North Vietnamese forces entered the city. Louise Bundy, mother of serial killer Ted Bundy, speaks with her son on the phone just minutes before his execution in 1989. Despite his crimes, she stood by him until the end, believing he was innocent and pleading for his life to be spared. Grace Kelly photographed swimming off the coast of Jamaica in 1955. At the time, she was one of Hollywood's most admired actresses, soon to leave her film career behind to marry Prince Rainier III of Monaco. A U.S. soldier aims his pistol as smoke rises from a burning village in Vietnam, 1968. Villages like this were often destroyed under suspicion of helping Viet Cong fighters during the war. A worker stands between towering stacks of cedar planks at Seattle Cedar Lumber Manufacturing in 1939. The photo shows the scale of the lumber industry in Washington during that time, when Seattle was one of the largest timber processing centers in the United States. 2 women practiced golf with the help of a mechanical swing trainer in 1925. Devices like this were designed to teach the perfect golf posture and swing, combining early 20th century fascination with sports and new mechanical inventions. Chief John Smith, also known as White Wolf, was believed to be 137 years old when he died in 1922. Born around 1785, he was a Chippewa, Ojibwe, elder from Minnesota, and was said to have met 7 generations of his people. In 1961, workers at Simpson's department store in Toronto organized mountains of COD parcels for delivery. Mail order shopping was a booming business then, long before online retail existed. Each wrapped package represented a customer order. In the 1980s, Hollywood car designer Jay Orberg built one of the most unusual vehicles ever made, a 30-foot-long limousine called the Living Room on Wheels. It featured sofas, a television, and even a minibar. A German bullet pierced through a British soldier's ammunition clip in 1916, bending the cartridges together. Incidents like this were rare, but showed how chaotic and close the fighting could get during World War I. Korean civilians carefully make their way across a bombed bridge in 1950 during the Korean War. The bridge, heavily damaged by explosions, became one of the few escape routes for thousands fleeing advancing forces. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.